The development of our channel is complete. Now we can focus on making sure that it's ready to be published to the Roku Channel Store. To do this, we're going to test our channel's design and performance and verify that it meets all of Roku's certification criteria. In this lesson, you'll learn about Roku's channel certification criteria, which Roku devices to include in your test suite, Roku's test automation software, and how to use Roku's automated testing tools to find any problem with your channel's code or behavior before submitting it for certification. We'll finish by reviewing some tips to help optimize your channel's performance. To maintain the overall quality of the Roku platform and ensure that channels integrate the latest Roku platform initiatives, all public channels in the Roku Channel Store must first be reviewed for design and performance criteria before being published. Channels must pass certification in order to be published to the Roku Channel Store. The good news is that we've designed our channel so that it passes certification. So it not only demonstrates how to develop the UI for a Roku channel, but also incorporates best practices for top certification compliant performance. Roku's channel certification criteria is detailed in the developer documentation. It organizes the criteria into the following categories, many of which we've covered in previous lessons. Advertising, which we covered when we added video ads to our channel. It provides the criteria for displaying video ads in a channel, including rules for privacy, ad measurement, child-directed content, and ad load and frequency. Purchases, which we discussed when we integrated Roku Pay in our channel, it includes rules for on-device authentication, purchases, subscription upgrades and downgrades, and entitlements. Performance, which we discussed when we did debugging and added the signal beacon to our channel. This provides the performance benchmarks that channels must meet for channel launch, screen transition, user request, navigation, and video playback times. Operations, which includes criteria for implementing key features such as trick play, voice controls, closed captioning, and bookmarking. Deep linking, which we just detailed in our deep linking lesson, it states that channels must support deep linking, including launching content with a prescribed playback experience based on the media type, and making sure that the channel is not relaunched when deep linking to content while the channel is already running. And channel UI, which provides rules for age-appropriate content, and the artwork and graphics used in the channel and in the Roku Channel Store. Take time to review the certification criteria before beginning development of your Roku channel. A link to the document is included in the resources section. When a Roku channel is published to the Channel Store, it is deployed to all supported Roku devices that actively receive Roku OS updates. This includes a wide range of models that have varying performance specifications. As a result, you will need a test suite that includes multiple device models to verify that your channel can run optimally on all devices. Your test suite should include a combination of current and updatable Roku devices with varying performance based on CPU and RAM. This includes the latest hardware with the highest performance capabilities and older or lower performance models that still, however, receive Roku OS updates. You can purchase all current Roku devices from Roku.com. Updatable devices, which are no longer manufactured but run the current Roku OS, might be available at electronics retail stores. If updatable devices are difficult to obtain via retail, you can try to purchase them from a second-hand marketplace. The resources section includes a link to Roku's hardware specifications, which lists the current and updatable Roku devices. To pass certification, a Roku channel must meet performance benchmarks on certain Roku device types, as outlined in the performance section in the certification criteria documentation. Therefore, your test suite must include the current devices used by Roku for certification testing. In addition to the required devices, your test suite should include as many supported devices as possible so that you can optimize your channel for viewers across all Roku devices. Once you have your test hardware in place, you can use Roku test automation software tools to write and execute test cases, including channel purchasing, performance, deep linking, and other certification-related testing. This speeds up channel development by reducing the number of manual UI tests that need to be run for simple to complex test cases. Roku provides custom Selenium-based WebDriver APIs for sending commands to launch channels, send key presses, and check whether SceneGraph components are present on the screen. Channels can use the WebDriver APIs to control a Roku device while using a test framework or programming language to create, run, log, and record test cases. To make automated testing even easier, Roku provides Robot and JavaScript libraries and a Postman collection. The resources section includes links to Roku's test automation software and documentation. An alternative for using Roku's test automation software is the stb-tester, which is a small hardware device that you can connect to your Roku device and use for executing automated test scripts. The stb-tester includes support for sideloading, launching, and navigating Roku channels and BrightScript debugging. The resources section includes a link to the stb-tester site where you can get more information on this device. Note that the stb-tester is not a Roku product or in any way affiliated with Roku. However, many Roku developers do use it for automating their test processes. Once you've completed your channel testing, you can use Roku's static analysis and channel behavior tools to get immediate feedback on whether your channel has any issues before submitting it for certification. This reduces development and testing time, as you do not have to wait for Roku to provide testing results before fixing your channels. Channels must pass static analysis testing in order to be published to the Roku Channel Store. The static analysis tool checks the structure and syntax of your channel's code for common problems related to RAF, Roku Pay, deep linking, and other certification requirements. It also makes sure that your channel implements required integrations such as the Roku Event Dispatcher in the signup flow and automatic account link in the authentication flow. And it checks that your code does not include any deprecated APIs or components. The static analysis tool is available from the developer dashboard, the Roku Eclipse plugin, and as a command line utility. To use the static analysis tool from the developer dashboard, you first sideload and package your channel with the development application installer. Note that before packaging your channel, convert it to squash FS file format to save flash storage space and speed up decompression. The first time you package your channel, you will need to use the Roku GenKey utility in the SceneGraph debug server on port 8080 to generate a signing key. This will generate a password for your channel that you will enter in the packager utility. Next, download the generated package to your local machine, and then upload the package to the static analysis tool and click Analyze. The static analysis tool will list any errors that would block certification. Any reported errors must be resolved before the channel can be submitted for certification. To use the static analysis tool from the Roku Eclipse plugin, simply right-click your project folder and click Analyze Project. The resources section includes a link to the static analysis tool documentation. If you are developing an ad-based or free channel, you can use the channel behavior analysis tool in the developer dashboard to verify that the channel meets performance and deep linking certification requirements. To use this tool, you upload a channel package, enter the deep linking parameters to be tested, and then run the tool. Channel tests run in real time on actual Roku devices in the cloud and are displayed within the certification test table as testing progresses. This table includes the status of each test, the test result, and detailed information about the test, including any additional error or warning information, a link to the related certification requirement, and a link to the related documentation. When testing has been completed, an email notification is sent to you with the results. You can also use the BrightScript profiler to identify parts of channel code where performance and memory usage can be improved. You can access this tool from the Roku Developer Tools page, and you can then download it to your local machine. Designing your channel with all device types is critical, as is making sure that it runs well. Creating a responsive, high-performance channel requires a few optimization techniques. One major technique is to minimize thread rendezvous. This is when data is passed from the task node thread to the render thread. For example, when populating a grid with content, the grid is created in the render thread. A content node, which is used to list all the content to be added to the grid, is created in the task node thread. In order to add the data in the content node to the grid, the task node thread needs to access the grid's content attribute. This requires a thread rendezvous to avoid a deadlock. Rendezvous require a lot of overhead, therefore use them as little as possible. In our example, the grid's content field is accessed just once. This is much better performance-wise than adding content to the grid one by one. You can also implement a queuing mechanism for tasks and make memory message more consistent by using the URI fetcher implementation. This provides a simple, non-blocking implementation of a basic download manager that is capable of multiple asynchronous URL requests implemented through a long-lived data task. Another technique is to use lazy loading and pagination to display content. For example, your channel can load content a few rows at a time in any or all directions based on where the user is currently focused in a browsable screen, rather than loading all the content at once before rendering it. By taking this lazy loading approach, your channel allows the user to seamlessly browse and scroll through content without any loading times and burdening the channel to fetch a bunch of data and images that are currently out of frame and won't improve the user experience. If you plan on incorporating an electronic program grid or EPG in your channel, another related tip for loading less data on lower end devices includes using the Now Next mode in Roku's Time Grid node. This mode only displays columns for the programs currently and subsequently airing on each channel instead of hours of upcoming programming. For the images that you display in your channel UI, you should provide standard, high def, and full high definition versions of them. This way, your channel can load the appropriate image matching the resolution of the target screen. Other quick tips include setting the RSG version attribute in the channel manifest to 1.2 to reduce the initial startup time and decrease memory usage. The good news is that RSG version attribute is set to 1.2 by default, so we don't need to explicitly add it. Minimize overdraws, as drawing the same pixel more than once within a single frame wastes processing time. And finally, when creating custom SceneGraph components, use the add field method instead of extending components. This is because creating new nodes consumes more resources. Congratulations! You just completed the Roku SceneGraph development course. If you stayed with us, you created a standard Roku channel UI complete with a grid screen, detail screen, and episode selection screen. You learned how to create a content feed and use it to populate the channel UI and how to debug your channel. You also implemented video ads and subscriptions to monetize content and integrated deep linking to get users to the content they've requested or searched for as fast as possible. If you've got a video library ready for publishing, you can use the sample channel as the foundation for your Roku channel development project. And if you've got questions, head over to the Roku Developers Forum and Roku Developer Slack channel for answers. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy streaming.